Kids Rogaway here, and we are back with another tutorial as we build Super Mario. Um, okay, in the last tutorial, we looked at a problem where when I test this, Mario will move, but he will move right through objects. And the reason he does that, it's pretty obvious, I would say, but really, all he's moving over top of right now is a static image. He's not really in this world. We could have put any picture back there and it would scroll just the same. But we want to tell Animate that those are actual objects. We don't want him to collide with those objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate really quickly how this is done. This is a technique called collision detection. And it's a result of when two objects collide with each other, it sends a value back to our code that tells the code that something has collided. And it creates a either function or something happens because of that. So what I'm going to do really quickly on this layer is I'm going to just create a layer above everything. And this is just temporary. I'm just going to call it temp. And I'm going to make an object. So I'm going to take my rectangle tool. I'm going to make an object. It really doesn't matter. Give it a bright color so you can see it. Maybe turn the stroke off. And just make an object like this. This is the object we're going to want the application to detect a hit when Mario connects with it. So let's double click that. Let's convert it to a symbol, and let's just call it hit test so that you can see how this works. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't have any spaces in my name, so just hit test, movie clip, okay. You'll notice that I left the registration point in the middle. That's going to be important in a second because that's part of how hit collision works. In this case, let's say we just want it to detect when these two guys basically bump into each other. So what I'm going to do is inside this hit test object, I'm going to just put a second frame and I'm going to put a color there on a blank. Actually, you know what? I can just put a regular keyframe and all I'll do is change the color. Let's say the color turns red. Okay? So inside of this movie clip, there is two frames, one green, one red. Oh, very important. Let's just put a stop on each of those frames so that it doesn't flash between the two. But what we're going to do is we're going to tell the program to change colors when Mario touches this block. Okay, so let's give it an instance name. We're going to go to Properties. And I'm going to call it hit test. That's what the program's going to use. And here's the command for this. It's actually pretty simple. We're going to go to our main code, which is on Mario Frame 1. And let's make a function. Actually, let's do it within game loop. Remember, game loop will kind of store everything that we're doing. You know what? This is a good time for us to separate this into a different type of function. I'm going to show you. This is how the game loop actually works. What we'll do is we'll move the line down where it says World 1 X walk speed, basically moving the background. And we're going to create a function there called, let's call it movement. I don't think we have anything else called movement. Nope. We're going to put two brackets like this and a parentheses that starts it. And inside game loop now, we have to close it off because it opens right here. We have to close that. Inside game loop, we're going to tell it to run movement like that. And what this is very important because remember I was telling you that the game loop is always running. It's always checking. But it gets confusing if we put tons of things inside of game loop. So what we're doing now is creating these little sub-functions that will work because game loop is calling them to play inside of here over and over and over again. And now we're going to make a new one called collision. Let's just call it collision. Collision detect. Be careful on the spelling there. And we're going to make it down here below. We're going to call it function collision detect. Whoops. Yep. Sorry, I shouldn't have did that. Collision detect. And I misspelt that. See, like I said, watch for the spelling. Double L, I screwed up there. And here's how you do that. We are going to basically say if Mario comes in contact with this object, jump to frame 2 of this object to show us that that's what happens. Okay, so here's how you do it. You go if, what was the name of this? Or actually we could do if this object, and I forget the name I gave it, hit test. If hit test dot, here's the command that actually checks for it. Hit test object, okay, and brackets Mario, which is the instance name of Mario, another bracket, we want it to do something. So it's basically saying if Mario hits the hit test object, okay, so if hit test object collides with Mario, what happens? Well, we said we would put hit test, we would go to and stop on frame 2. Okay? This is a very simple command. It's a collision detection. If it detects a hit between Mario and the hit test object, it's going to go to frame 2 of the hit test object and stop there. So let's see if it works. Test. So we're moving him. Oh, we got a problem. We have got a major problem. Because the background is sliding, this block doesn't move. Okay? So what we need to do is we also need to add this block to the movement as well. So it's the exact same hit test dot x plus or equals walk speed to add that object so it moves with the background. Okay, so that's something you're going to encounter, obviously, if you know, that happens. So we're using hit test objects. So let's go test. Okay, and when I hit it, boom, it turns red. Doesn't turn back because we didn't tell it to turn back, but you saw it the moment. Well, let's just watch it one more time. Test. The moment Mario touched that block, boom, it turned red. Okay? So that's very, very important because we're going to use collision detection a lot, especially with setting up this, this level correctly. There is also a different type. There's one called hit test point. And this one is super important. And I'll show you in an upcoming lesson why. This one uses the registration point on Mario. It's going to check if the registration point, the X and Y value, comes back true, then it'll go back to stop on frame 2 of hit test. And here's what this one's looking for. If I go and I unlock this layer just so you can see, it's looking at this point. And on this object, it's looking at that point. So if those 2 points come in contact, then it'll change. So let's test that. It's going to be a little tougher for me to get that. But, okay. So the points connected. The points have touched. Okay, you don't see much of a difference, but it does work nicely. Okay, if his point touches this object, then it goes to. So we've got that little point made contact with the object, and it works. Okay, so that's kind of, in a nutshell, that's how collision detection works. What we're going to do is we're just going to delete this hit test object. We're going to get rid of this temp layer. And I'm going to actually create hit test objects on this entire map. This is going to take a little bit of time, but I'm going to show you how you're going to do it as well. We're going to zoom out a little bit using the magnifying glass. I want to be able to see my entire map. I'm actually going to close my actions for a second because it's taking up a lot of room. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a new layer. We're going to call it hit zones. Let's call it hit zones. And we're going to basically take our rectangle tool and we're going to draw blocks over everything that Mario should not be allowed to come in contact with. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to come back once I'm done. Okay, so once again, you made a new layer, call it hit zones, lock the other ones, take the rectangle tool, fill it with a color. It doesn't matter what color because these are going to be invisible anyways. And we are going to put blocks over every part of the map that Mario should not be coming in contact with. And I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, and we are back, and now you can see when I zoom out, I have the entire level blocked out with all the hit zones in there. Okay, and what we're going to do is just again make sure that your layers are locked. We're going to select all of them. We're going to press Command A to select all of those blocks, and we're going to convert the whole entire thing to a symbol, movie clip, and we're going to call it hit. I'm going to go lowercase hit zones and hit OK. All right, continue on with this in part 2 to see how we stop Mario from hitting them. All right, so continue on with part 2 in the playlist. If you don't see it, let me know.